So, hello my friends, Devaun Lennox here, PhotographyPX. In today's video, I want to show you how to connect the Sony ZV-1 to Imaging Edge Mobile, which is Sony's basically their camera remote app for smartphones, both Android and iOS devices. I have an iPad here that I'm going to connect it to, but the workflow and the general process is exactly the same. Now here on the Sony ZV-1, I've initialized my settings, so this is what you're going to see by default, and we're going to go through step by step, and I'm going to show you how to connect to Imaging Edge Mobile consistently. There are some settings that you're definitely going to want to change. If not, you're going to run into some issues connecting, and it's going to be a little bit tedious and cumbersome for you to get connected. It's actually a very straightforward and seamless process, but a lot of people have issues with this, so I definitely wanted to put out a video that you can very much have consistent results with. So let's head over into the ZV-1 and we can kind of get started here. Okay, so here on the ZV-1, we're going to head over into the menu. I'm going to go into the network tab. By default, you're going to be right over here. There's a couple settings here that we're going to want to enable first and foremost. You're going to want to make sure airplane mode is not turned on. That's set to off. Control with smartphone, this particular setting is going to allow the camera to maintain an always on Bluetooth connection, so you can actually do remote shooting. And it's just one of these settings that allows you to basically initiate that process more consistently, more seamlessly. You don't have to do this if you're not going to be doing remote shooting, but it's as an option, it's always it's a great option. This camera does have low powered Bluetooth, so basically if you enable this, that's what it's going to do. It's always going to maintain that connection, but it does drain battery life to a certain extent, so it's understandable if you don't want to put that one on. So I'm just letting you know that's an option you can enable if you'd like. Another thing that you're going to want to change though, in the Bluetooth settings, we're going to want to turn the Bluetooth function on. You have two options with connecting to devices with this camera. You can use Bluetooth, which is easier and more streamlined, or you can use Wi-Fi. Basically, then you have to go into your tablet or your phone settings and connect to the Wi-Fi network. That is a little bit hit or miss. That does work, but it's very much hit or miss. I would definitely suggest that you use Bluetooth instead. The Bluetooth functionality on this camera, once you scan the QR code, works really well. So I definitely encourage that you turn on the Bluetooth function and use that instead. But here is where we're going to start the pairing process. I just want to also make another note. You can do Bluetooth remote control. This is kind of also going to be doing the remote shooting functionality that's in the app. So I'm going to turn that on as well. Now, when you do go into this mode, it's going to ask that you basically connect and you pair to the Imaging Edge app. I'm going to hit cancel for the time being, and we'll come back to that specific thing, but I am going to turn that on so I can use the Bluetooth signal that's coming out of the ZV-1 to actually remote tether and connect to my iPad. The only other thing that you may or may not want to consider is location info link. Basically, this is geotagging your images. If you're going to transfer images over to a mobile device, it's likely that you want to capture the geographic location, which is going to use your phone's actual GPS to tag that information and metadata, which you can then pull up in Lightroom or some other image culling applications such as Capture One and so on. It will that tag for the location info link will be part of the metadata once you transfer it over to your phone. Otherwise, you don't actually get geotagging. So if you do want geotagging, this is kind of the workaround to do that. But to actually connect this device to a smartphone, the first time you do have to go through the Wi-Fi settings. Now to do that, we're going to head over to page 1 and we're going to hit the send the smartphone function and hit send the smartphone, and we're going to do select on smartphone. This is going to basically prompt the ZV-1 to display its QR code, so you can actually connect to the camera directly via Wi-Fi. And then the following attempts that we'll do will actually connect through Bluetooth, which is going to be maintain that always on powered connection to a certain extent, or it's going to just bypass the Wi-Fi QR code section, so you can actually connect more consistently. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to jump over to the iPad and we're going to actually start going through the connection process. Now the Sony ZV-1 is displaying its QR code. Here on the iPad, we're going to have to hit connect to new camera, and then we're going to scan the QR code. It's going to ask basically to give us a permission essentially to use your camera, and then I'm going to just hover over and we're going to hit join and wait for that. And that's the first process. We're going to wait for this connection to occur, and we're going to hit OK. and we can now select our images that we want to transfer. We'll hit the tap up here, and this button down here actually sends that image to the smartphone. Now this is the first way that I've just initialized the basically the connection to the ZV-1. So there's that. Now the question is, how do you then, once you've initialized that first connection with the ZV-1, how do you make this more of a consistent process? So now there are a couple ways that you can do this connection. First and foremost, I would say probably the easiest way is actually going to be going into the play menu, go into your menu section here, navigating over to the network setting, and then hitting the send smartphone function, and then select on smartphone. And then we're going to go back over on the iPad, and then we're just going to simply hit start, hit OK, and then hit join. And we're going to wait for that connection to initialize again. And once that connection goes through, then now we can get back in, and I can select the other image that I took here, and now I can send that one. And that's the general process on how to connect the Sony ZV-1 to Imaging Edge Mobile on iOS. The same follows suit on Android devices. You don't have to go through the Wi-Fi settings and connect to the device manually. All you have to do is just initialize both of them. Now, if you already have it connected and you're experiencing some issues, all you have to do is just go through the main menu right here, and then scroll on down, and then reset network settings, initialize, and then follow the step-by-step, reconnect to Imaging Edge Mobile using the QR code. Make sure the settings that I mentioned in the beginning of the video are enabled, and then all you have to do is just initiate an Imaging Edge Mobile, hit start, and it'll automatically connect to the Sony ZV-1 so long as you're in the playback menu, and then you hit that smartphone function that I showed earlier. As long as you do those two steps, then you'll have the right kind of the settings on the Sony ZV-1 so that it can actually be engaging its Wi-Fi network, and then you can actually connect automatically based on that QR code. They basically talk to each other in that moment. But there you have it, my friends. There's the setup guide on how to connect the Sony ZV-1 to Sony's Imaging Edge Mobile on iOS devices here specifically. But if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, if you're having issues connecting the Sony ZV-1, please let me know down below. I will be selling this camera here pretty soon, but I will be able to get a response back if you're having any specific issues on this connection process. Now, if you do want to do the remote functionality, that is a slightly different process that I'm not going to cover in this particular video. But if you have any questions about that as well, please let me know down below. Also, while you're down in the description box down below, we've launched a new brand called PXPresets.com. PX Presets is going to be your next one and only stop for Lightroom presets until we launch Photoshop and other platform presets. But here you can find both desktop and mobile presets to get you started in a variety of different mediums more powerfully, and upgrade your imaging and take your images to the next level. That link to pxpresets.com will be in the description box down below. Please check that out if you're in the market for some exciting Lightroom presets. But until next time, my friends, I've been your host, Devaun Lennox. I will see you in the next video.